Good evening. This is Tennyson E Stead. I'm speaking to you as the writer and director of our upcoming feature film Quantum Theory, and as one of the founding members of Eight-Sided Films and the Eight-Sided Films Ensemble. And today I would like to talk about the intersection between heroism and feminism within quantum theory, because one of the things that we have been congratulated for and credited for is championing female main characters and championing the idea that a woman can, as a character and as a driving force in a story, drive the success of a motion picture. And while this seems like an obvious and simple concept to embrace, and while certainly I don't disagree that all of those things are true, in my opinion, the reason that Chelsea and Ro are meaningful characters and the reason why their journey and their mission is so important to us is not because we're championing women, but because they champion themselves as characters. And that's something I wanted to talk a little bit about today. Basically, the exciting part of the story of quantum theory is that Chelsea and Ro, in creating the prototype and the technology that they have, they've completely changed the rules by which society works. They've created something that so fundamentally changes what's possible and what's not possible that all of a sudden, all of the old ways of doing things just don't apply anymore. And the problem that the movie really rests on is that someone else has seen this change coming and is much more prepared to control and shape the effects of this technology than Chelsea and Ro are themselves. And ultimately, that person does not have the best interests of our world or of them as inventors at heart. In fact, they want power. And they've already seen how this technology can give it to them, and they've already started manipulating all this stuff behind the scenes. I don't want to get into spoily territory, but that's the core conflict of the movie, is Chelsea and Ro having to turn this situation around and find a way to take this technology back from someone who clearly understands its influence better than they do, even if they don't understand the mechanics of the technology itself. And what's exciting about the movie is that even though they lack that understanding, and even though they don't have the context that they would need to make everything of this device and this technology and this prototype that they could, they go ahead and they start finding people who can help them solve those problems, and they expand their community and they expand themselves, and they become the solution to that problem through deliberate effort. They very willingly change their perspectives and their whole approach to problem solving in order to grow into the person who can and should manage that responsibility so that they can take it away from the person who took it from them. What this says to me is that they are more committed to the action of the story, which is to get the prototype back, than they are to their identities and then the way that they see themselves as individuals. And when somebody is able to let go of who they think they are so completely that they can grow into the person the world needs them to be, and do it without resentment, and do it without holding a grudge over the necessity of taking that responsibility, that's the essence of heroism, and that's what makes the story of quantum theory uplifting and not just funny. Whenever we approach a piece of content in Eight-Sided Films, we want to make sure that we're giving the audience something that relates it to the other work that we do. And we've sort of hit on three things that basically we know we can do with any movie, and we pick two. We can inspire audiences, we can challenge audiences, and we can delight audiences. And Quantum Theory is definitely an inspiration and delight movie, as opposed to a super challenging movie to watch. It's not the kind of movie you're going to walk out just going, oh God, I don't feel good about myself, I don't feel good about the people around me, I need to sort some things out. We definitely have those movies coming. This is not that project at all. This is a movie where I think people are going to walk out of the theater feeling very good about themselves, and very good about the promise of the future, and good about all the things they can be doing, and they're going to see more solutions to the problems in their life, because hopefully the movie will have opened them up and made them more receptive. That's where the inspiration and that's where it comes from. And Chelsea and Ro create that sense through their own actions, and they show people an example of how you can let go of who you think you are so you can become the person you need to be. To such a complete degree that I think a lot of the problems we face on a day-by-day basis become relatively manageable by comparison. And the fact that they're successful gives us hope. And it gives us a reason to take that jump and let go a little bit of who we think we are, because the rewards are there. And this movie sort of serves as a reminder of that. With that in mind, I want to be clear about how we're approaching Chelsea and Ro as women, because for me, and I think this is one of the reasons why I'm able to get such excellent actors to come onto the project and work with us. For me, the exciting thing about Chelsea and Ro is not that they're women, it's that they're able to challenge themselves to such a huge and personal degree to overcome a problem that affects everybody, literally everybody. And the reason why they inspire loyalty in their community, and the reason why they're able to turn around and get help from strange places that you wouldn't normally expect, and what ultimately makes it the heist movie where you've got this team of wacky characters trying to solve this overwhelming problem using sleight of hand and, all kinds of tricks and wit and, anything to get the job done, goofing off, whatever it takes. The reason why they're able to pull people in who can stretch that far and work that fast and make all these awesome things happen is because at the end of the day, all the people in the movie look to Chelsea and Ro as people who are willing to give that much of themselves, where everybody who's invested in their journey trusts that they're not going to be left behind and that they're not going to be abandoned and they're not going to wind up stranded without resources or help when they need it the most. They see Chelsea and Ro as people who are going to empower them to succeed and empower them to grow instead of demanding that they grow to solve their own problems. Even though the movie is really a consequence of Chelsea and Ro's actions, they take such complete responsibility for it that you trust them and you want to work with them and you embrace the idea that being a part of their journey and contributing what you can to their success is going to make the world a better place, even though they made a mistake. That's what makes them heroes. And the fact that they doubt themselves and the fact that it doesn't seem obvious that they will win is what makes the movie exciting and fun. You see what I'm saying? That's feminist, because feminism means equality. Feminism means treating people with respect and dignity and trust, or a lack of respect and dignity and trust, regardless of their gender. It means treating women equally to men. And I think we're not going to see equal representation in film until we let go of the idea that it is special or distinctive to be a woman in a movie. It's not about pushing an idea of a strong female character into a movie in order to perpetuate the idea that this kind of woman or that kind of woman can succeed, and here's an example of how that works. You don't have to build archetypes, and you don't have to create ways to make it okay for a woman to succeed in a film. You just have to have a woman solve huge problems, and the story of solving those problems is her story, and now you've got a movie about a woman. That's it. And, I look at Chelsea and Ro not in terms of the archetypes that typically drive the success of a female character in a science fiction or fantasy movie, because you look at most of those characters, and actually most of the women who have been really successful in sci-fi franchises and film franchises that are action-based, because of how we've written them, they tend to be very self-destructive. You look at Buffy the Vampire Slayer, or you look at Ellen Ripley from the Alien movies, and these are women who literally committed genocide and tore huge parts of themselves out in order to make room for the terrible things that their situation required of them. And they were left irrevocably changed to the degree that they really weren't going to be able to socialize, to make that sacrifice was the thing that drove their story. But sacrifice isn't always the best solution to a problem. regardless of whether or not you're a woman or a man. You know, we see in the Avengers movies, we see Iron Man consistently trying to make the big sacrifice, and it doesn't work. And instead, he has to become a more complete person and a better person. You know, and I'm not saying one kind of story is better than the other. I think revenge stories in general and stories about personal sacrifice and soldier stories can be immensely gratifying for an audience, and they remind us that sometimes it's worth giving up a piece of ourselves for the big picture. I think that's very important, you know. As the creative director of our current season, you know, we definitely have some challenge and inspire movies without much delight. We have those movies coming too. But this is a delightful film because it tells us about the upside of human nature and the way that we can accomplish things and become better people in doing so. You know, and in order to solve their problems, Chelsea and Ro actually have to become more complete people. They have to become more efficient people, but they also have to become more open-minded and more trusting and better listeners and better at soliciting the help of others in a constructive manner. You know, a huge part of why they wind up in the trouble that they wind up in is because they go to the wrong people because they're not listening to themselves, and they trust the wrong people because they feel desperate. You know, and they have to learn to expand past that desperation and find the real troubleshooting place to work from. And to me, that's exciting. It's a really gratifying part of the work that we do. I just wanted to put that out there because so much of the discussion about feminism in film is about building archetypes that empower women, when really the way to empower anyone is to just give them better tools and in some cases show them that those tools work. And so many of the female characters that we're providing as a culture just don't have those better tools to offer. They just have more extreme measures compounded by more extreme measures. And I think there's, from a cultural perspective, a better way to educate on the subject of empowerment. And that's true regardless of whether we're talking about women or men or anything else. So the heroism in quantum theory is grounded in a willingness to grow and a willingness to change and a willingness to adapt in a holistic way and in a complete way. And the thing that makes Chelsea and Ro heroes is the fact that they consistently look for and find ways of doing that sustainably and in a way that makes them people that they like even more than the people they were when they encountered the problem that they have. That to me is, if what I'm saying is if people want to call me a feminist for doing that, I'm fine with it. I think that's great. I embrace it, and I'm very happy to be telling a story that helps people make better sense of the crazy world that we live in, and bringing people together and having them share experiences that open them up a little bit and make it easier for them to relate to each other when maybe they otherwise wouldn't be able to. That's what fulfills me. So I'm more than happy to take on that label. I just wanted to take a moment and divorce quantum theory from, or at least differentiate quantum theory from some of the other conversations that are going on in Hollywood right now about where the intersection is between feminism and heroism, because I see a bigger opportunity here, and I'm ready to take advantage of it. I thank you for giving me your ear. I thank you very much for taking the time. And I definitely appreciate the fact that this movie has, even before we finished making it, stirred up so many great conversations and gotten people talking about these issues, because I think it's really important. Thank you very much for your time. This is Tennyson E Stead, signing off.